Thanks, Yolando. Yes, so thank you all for joining us this evening and taking the time out of your busy days to sit on another Zoom call. We really appreciate it. So we're here tonight to talk about the Keep Cool Somerville initiative and our mini grant opportunity that we have for this summer. So Jeanette, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I think some of you on the call are familiar with Keep Cool Somerville, but maybe some of you are new to this. So this is an initiative that we have to help prepare Somerville for increasingly hotter summers. So this is coming out of our work on Somerville Climate Forward, Somerville's climate action plan that sets our agenda as a city for how we're going to address climate change, working towards our goal of being a carbon neutral city by 2050, and preparing for the impacts of climate change that we're already feeling in Somerville. So that includes hotter summers and increasing temperatures year round, and increased risk of flooding. And so this project and this initiative are really focused on the heat piece of it. So in 2020, so last year, we partnered with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, so MAPC, where Jeanette and Yolando work, and they're a regional planning agency for the Boston area. And we started this project to really try to understand how heat is impacting folks in Somerville today, and to develop a toolkit of strategies to address these impacts. So with that, we then were awarded a grant funding from MAPC's Accelerating Climate Resiliency Grant Program to really dive into actually implementing and piloting some strategies to increase heat resilience in Somerville. And that's what this project is focused on. So in 2021, we have this funding to award some mini grants for community projects that really start to get at how to increase heat resilience and mitigate some of the impacts and things we learned about in the last year. So next slide. So this is one of the things we did last year. So this is an image from our Photovoice project. So you may have seen some of these images online or in some of our neighborhood parks. So the Photovoice project was a number of residents documented their experience with extreme heat over the summer, over a few weeks last summer. So took pictures, kind of explaining and added captions explaining how they're managing heat or being impacted by heat in their day-to-day lives. So this became a photography exhibit that then we have online and we have on display. It was on display in the fall and it's actually on display again right now at a few parks. So you can see it at East Somerville Community School, at Nunziato Field, and at Hodgkin Curtin Park between Davis and Teal Square. So if you're out and about, go check it out because there's a lot of great photos and content there. So this was one of the ways that over the last year, we really tried to understand what folks are experiencing in Somerville and helped to inform the toolkit that we put together that we'll share a little bit more about later. So next slide, please. So we already did a little bit of introduction. So this is the main team that is working on this. We already introduced ourselves, but also on the line tonight, we have a few other folks that will be helping out and sharing insight. So Oliver Sellers Garcia is the director of the Office of Sustainability and Environment for the City of Somerville. He's going to be helping to facilitate one of the small groups as well. And then we have a number of folks on the line who are part of our Keep Cool Somerville advisory group. And they include other city staff and community partners who've been a little bit more involved in this project and helping us scope it out and been involved over the last year. So they're also available and online to help provide feedback on your project ideas, and we'll be sharing insights in the small group discussions. Next slide. Okay, so I think I'm now going to pass it back to Yolando to go over the agenda of what we're going to cover tonight.
Great, thanks, Hannah. These are the main things that we want to cover. We want to make sure that you all have an understanding of like the Keep Cool Somerville mini grant program. So just give you an overview and some examples around that. just trying to, we want for you all to brainstorm and get feedback in breakout rooms for your specific ideas and projects. And then we want you all to have all the things you need for the next step so that you have your application submitted and that you know how to move forward with implementing your projects if you do get selected and all that. But that's basically our main agenda items for today. And for our objectives, actually, so these are our objectives. Okay. So these are our meeting objectives for today. We want participants to have like a great understanding of like just the overall project and the goals and the process. So connected to our agenda item, we want participants to be just to like get a better network and connect with each other and be able to like engage more and like cross-pollinate each ideas in a way, and like try to also get solutions from each other. We also want to allow you all to like discuss your project ideas and see if there's any relevant insights that you can get from experts and get feedback from those city staff or other key folks and stakeholders in the city that can help you with executing. And then we also want you to just leave with an understanding of like the like future opportunities on how to engage with the team in on this specific project. So that's like our objectives. So we want to get a lot done, but we think we can do it, especially if like you all like, give us all of your ideas and feel open and free during the breakout room spaces. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so for the next piece, we want to make sure that you all can share a little bit with us around like what you think are some like opportunities for the mini grants. So people feel in different ways about heat in Somerville, so we want to like capture that through a quick poll. So Jeanette, if you can go to the next slide. Unless, okay, so I'm gonna, basically the question is how, instead of how engaged, it's going to be a different question. I'm just actually to pull up the poll right now so that.
Yeah, so just ignore the poll everywhere on the top. We're just doing it within
it's gonna be
Zoom.
So the question is, sorry, Jeanette. So the question is, how concerned are people around you when it comes to extreme heat? So think about like other folks in Somerville, in your neighborhood. Are they like alarmed about extreme heat? Are they like prairie dogs? Are they like busy beavers and like more concerned? Are they like cautious cougars and more, just cautious in general, stubborn sloths? Are they disengaged? Do they have the head in the sand like ostriches, or are they bullheaded like mules? And those are coming in. There's a lot of consistency, actually.
Thanks, Avery, but I didn't come up with these. I definitely borrowed them from someone else. Okay, it looks like we have a lot of cautious cougars. So maybe people are definitely aware, but it's not a high priority. And it won by a lot. So 62%, 8 of you said cautious cougars, a couple of busy beavers. At least one person feels their community is really alarmed by this. Okay.
Great. Thanks everyone for posting, for just responding to that.
So I'm gonna take the mic and then just kind of quickly go over like, why are we doing this? What are the risks that we are trying to address within Somerville? What do we need to know about heat in order to kind of implement our projects? So just some things to know. So our planet has been getting warmer for at least 100 years, and the pace of that heat has been accelerating. So as we've come closer to 2020, global temperatures are further and farther away from the average. And the last 10 years have actually been the hottest in the global record. So last year, 2020, tied with 2016 for the hottest year in recorded history. In New England specifically, depending how you look at the scale, it was the first or the second hottest. And we expect these summers to get increasingly hotter, unfortunately. So this is looking kind of at the Boston area and days above 90 degrees. So historically, we've had about 11 days per year of temperatures over 90. And even with bold action on climate, we will expect that this number is going to at least triple. If we do nothing, conditions could get significantly worse. Extreme heat affects health in a number of different ways. We're probably all most familiar with heat stress, heat exhaustion. Heat affects our body's ability to cool down, and that can cause a range of symptoms such as headaches, dizziness, weakness and muscle cramps, dehydration. More severe symptoms might include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Worst case scenario could be heat stroke, which can be deadly. There are other ways beyond those heat illnesses that extreme heat impacts our health. So for folks with respiratory conditions and allergies, heat makes those worse. Warmer temperatures and increased rainfall and flooding also create strong conditions for mosquitoes and ticks, which transmit infectious diseases. Heat's been associated with poor maternal health outcomes, such as low birth weights and preterm births. Might worsen some heart disorders, cardiovascular conditions, and heat with persistent dehydration can result in some kidney disorders, some which have been seen by care providers within Cambridge Health Alliance. And heat can worsen certain mental health conditions. Also, a lot of people that take medications for certain mental health conditions or heart conditions might be, because of the medications, are kind of less sensitive to those signals that say like your body is overheating, and have less ability to cool down. So heat affects everybody, but it affects some folks particularly strongly. So infants and young children, they're physiologically more sensitive, but they're also dependent on others for access to cooling. Older adults, people with health conditions, as I was describing earlier, people who are pregnant, people who work in hot environments, not just outdoor workers, but people who work in kitchens, home health aides, housekeepers, people who are socially isolated. Unfortunately, most heat-related deaths are lonely deaths experienced by people living alone who are not well connected to others. People who rely on transit and walking are more exposed, and people without affordable access to air conditioning or stable housing. There's been really great reporting on this in the last year, kind of comparing historic disinvestment in communities of color and increased concentration of what are called heat islands, which have few trees and a lot of pavement. So low-income residents and BIPOC communities often experience the greatest heat burdens. So this is the question that everything started with here in Somerville last year when we first started Keep Cool Somerville. How do you stay cool in hot weather? How do you cope with the heat? We're really looking to the community as experts to help guide what sort of actions are adopted within Somerville, and hoping to see folks implementing some of those solutions through the mini grant opportunity, which Hannah will talk more about. If you want to add some of your answers in the chat, feel free to share, but I'm going to turn the mic over to Hannah.
Thanks, Jeanette, for that great overview of why we're focused on this issue in the first place. There's, as you can see, it's a big problem. And I'll just say that this is a new field. So looking at planning and public health and its connection to climate change and extreme heat, it's pretty new and not something that there's been a lot of work on to date, especially in colder climates like New England, like we have in Massachusetts. So this is really like we are looking to the community to help provide, help us figure out what makes sense to be implementing in Somerville to address these challenges that we have. So that's where this community mini grant project comes from. So this summer, we're inviting community groups and residents to propose small-scale projects to prepare and protect Somerville residents from extreme heat. We have just under $20,000 to distribute for this project. So we're hoping to award a handful of grants to be implemented this summer. And those projects can be at a variety of scales. So it can be something that's quite small. So just requesting a few $100s to several $1,000s, but really with the intention of all of the projects being implemented within the community within the 3 months of this summer. Next slide. So we have a few priorities that we set out for this grant opportunity based on what Jeanette just presented about and the research and outreach that we did over the last year. So the priorities are the following. And so as I'm going over this, think about the project idea that you have. And it really should be trying to address one of these priorities that will be the most successful project. So these are the kinds of things that we're looking for. So the first is improving affordable access to cooling at home. So this would include projects that promote people's ability to cool at home regardless of their ability to pay utility costs, their living arrangement or rental arrangement, any mobility impairments and other access barriers. So we heard quite often over last summer that the cost of paying utilities when running an AC is a real barrier for many folks in Somerville. So that's really addressing how do we make it easier for folks to stay cool in their homes. The second priority is no barrier access to cooling spaces or the creation of new cooling features. So this could include projects that promote access to shade or water, air-conditioned spaces that are publicly accessible. So we heard a lot from folks that, when it's hot out, they go find a place to cool down, whether that's the public pool or the library or a movie theater. So what are ways that we can increase access to those places that are already cool within the community that folks go? And then projects that also can activate those spaces or make some outdoor spaces cooler. The third priority is education and awareness building of heat risks and adaptation measures. So Jeanette shared a number of the health risks that are associated with extreme heat. And this might be new for some folks, right? Growing up in Massachusetts, we haven't had a lot of super hot summers, and we're often predisposed to be more concerned about winter and being really cold and protecting against that. And so how do we shift some of this cultural mindset that we really need to be concerned about heat as well, and making sure that folks are keeping themselves protected and safe during those extreme heat events. So, building that awareness around that. And then the final priority is about community connectedness and empowerment. So this would include projects that engage and uplift lived experiences and knowledge that people who are most likely to be impacted by extreme heat, and projects that foster community connections or mutual aid during times of high heat. Next slide. So similarly, we identified several priority populations that we're hoping these mini grant projects can help address or support. So these priority populations were, again, identified through our outreach and research process from last year. So includes immigrant individuals and families with children, low-income renters, people experiencing homelessness, older adults, youth, and people with pre-existing health conditions. Next slide. Okay, and then finally, who should be applying for these grants? These grants are open to any Somerville resident, group, or organization that has a community project that's eligible. You're eligible to apply. So a few ideas are just residents, community-led groups, advocacy or arts organizations, neighborhood or apartment associations, or nonprofit service providers. If you're on this call and you don't fit into one of these groups, we still want to hear your idea and encourage you to submit a proposal. We're really looking for projects that address those priorities and work with those priority populations that we identified in the previous slides. Next slide. Okay, and here is the timeline for the grant project. So today, May 4th, is the IDEA workshop. Over the next few weeks, we have a number of virtual idea cafes or virtual office hours that we're hosting where you can come get feedback or questions answered about your project proposal by myself and Jeanette. So if you just want some more one-on-one support for developing your project proposal, these are great opportunities. We'll have them at a number of different times. So on Friday, May 7th in the afternoon, on the evening of Wednesday, May 12th, and then in the morning on Tuesday, May 18th. So we will send out at the end of this meeting the Zoom links for those and just their drop-in sessions. So if you have a project idea you want some feedback on, please join us at one of those. And then the applications are due on May 26th. We'll then review the applications and get back to you by June 4th with announcements of the awards. And then that will give you 3 months to complete the project. So all projects need to be completed by September 6th. And at that point, we'll ask for any mini grant award recipients to complete a project survey and to share and to meet with one another, the other project awardees, and share their learning. So we really want to learn from this experience because, you know, again, this is something new. We're piloting some new ideas and we want to be gaining learning as much as possible from these community projects. Okay, and I'm going to now, so that's the overview of the project and where we're going. And I'm going to pass it back to Jeanette to give some examples.
Great. So I'm just going to share some examples of projects and work that was implemented mostly last summer within Greater Boston or across the country to address heat impacts in the context of COVID, really, because again, a lot of these took place over last summer. So in terms of projects that address kind of indoor heat exposure, we saw a lot of communities giving out fans, AC units, personal cooling kits to residents. Sometimes these were done with really creative partnerships. So it was, you know, a clinic working with a community group, or, you know, one idea we heard last summer was a proposal around a lending library for AC units. Also saw a lot of emphasis around outreach for home and small business weatherization, understanding that, you know, the cost of running an AC unit is often a big inhibitor for folks. And so ensuring that there is awareness about energy programs and weatherization opportunities that are available to residents is really important. And saw folks providing electricity bill assistance to kind of cover some of those costs. There were some really creative outdoor project examples. So this one is one of my favorites. It's the Refreshing Waters which was implemented in the South Bronx outside of a cooling center that was not open to the community because of COVID. And so they brought the cooling center outdoors by installing kind of a long bench under some shade trees. They provided additional movable seating, fans, and a line of overhead nozzles to spray mist of water on folks to provide a safe space to kind of be socially distant, but together and cool. Philadelphia frequently does these play streets. It's a program that they've done for about 50 years where they have kind of community block parties where they also give out of-school meals. And so the city closed about 100 streets in some of their heat island neighborhoods. They supplied volunteers with cooling kits that included umbrellas, tents, cooling racks, super soakers, and misting fans. So it's very like a heat conscious sort of block party. And also in New York, this one was kind of a partnership of residents and different community groups to design different cooling prototypes throughout the community. So you see here a misting tunnel, some really low-tech, low-cost shade features that were added kind of outside of grocery distribution hubs. And folks implemented an outdoor public library. In terms of heat communications, there are a lot of options, such as creating videos or flyers, brochures, webinars, public art that educates the community about heat risks and heat solutions, and important to emphasize making these communications accessible in multiple languages. And I think there's a lot of inspiration that we can take from some of the artistic communication strategies that were implemented to build community awareness around COVID and public health. So wearing masks and now, getting vaccinated. We also, with the work that we did over last summer and last fall, developed a cooling strategies toolkit for the city of Somerville and community groups, and it includes about 25 different strategies that the city and its partners can implement to address heat risks within the community. I really recommend that you take a look at this. It's accessible through the project website. And this is just a springboard for kind of your ideas. This is based on what we heard last fall, but we're hoping that this summer generates some additional strategies. So I'm just going to stop there and maybe take a minute or two if folks have any questions. Do we see any in the chat?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
In terms of recruitment, and in particular for recruitment from priority populations, is that something that the planning team can help out with, or is there like a specific recruitment strategy portion of the grant application?
I can answer that one. So I think if you have an idea, we'd want to try to connect you with folks who might be able to help with some of that outreach beforehand, so that you can put together a strong proposal. Folks who are engaged in the advisory group, some of them work with youth or our immigrant communities. So there are folks who can connect you with, but I think yes, and let's talk more about what that could look like.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Are there any questions from the chat or?
Not seeing anything else in the chat, so maybe we can start moving towards breakout rooms and then have more questions later.
Great. So I don't know why this animation's here. I apologize for it, but I'm going to turn the mic over to Yolanto.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeanette and Hannah, for giving us all that background and information. So we are going to move into breakout rooms, which is a space for you all to share your ideas. And actually also we want you all to introduce yourselves to each other, get to know each other and get to know different ideas. But we are going to have 2 breakout rooms instead of 3 that you see up here. We're going to have indoor cooling solutions and outdoor cooling solutions as opportunities for you all to like share your project ideas. We were going to have a 3rd group focus on communications in general, but we think that it's a more intimate space tonight. So we'll just do 2 breakout rooms, and you can just select your own breakout room in a second when I open it up, and we'll have about like 35 minutes for you all to like share out your ideas, get feedback, try to like be inspired by each other too. So keep an open mind for like what are the solutions, what are some ways to approach this project. You might, somebody else might have something that they share out that might impact your own project. Try to ask each other some follow-up questions to really help each other develop strong applications and projects. And then we will also be giving you some assistance from key city staff who will be in different breakout rooms to give you feedback and insights and help you think about how it can actually be executed in Somerville. If you need any assistance, you'll have staff there who can help you move to a different breakout room if needed, but you can always come back to the main room and I'll help you go to the other breakout room. If you get kicked out for some reason, you lose connection, just use the same link and join the Zoom, and I'll reassign you to the right breakout room. And then there'll be a note taker who will be the main facilitator. So Jeanette or Hannah will be taking note on a tool that we call Jamboard. And they will share the link to the Jamboard in the chat so that you have access to it, and you can also plug in some additional notes there that might be helpful for you later on, but they will also be taking notes on that for you. And then we will need someone to share back like insights that were shared out in the breakout rooms in the main room, so everyone could understand what was talked about. So just choose one person from your group that could be that person to share back when we get back. And yeah, that's about it. Again, Hannah will give you just a quick understanding around like how to best take advantage of these breakout rooms and how it can help you with connecting with priority populations.
Yeah, so thanks. We're running behind, so I'm going to go quick. So just quick framing of these projects, remember they're 3 months, they're so not a ton of time. Try to think of something that is achievable to accomplish in that time period and with either yourself or your team that you're proposing this with. And also just, there will be more opportunities after this meeting to dig into your project further. So those cafe hours that I mentioned. So don't feel like you need to leave here tonight with everything sorted out. Perfectly fine to just get inspired tonight. So don't want to take up too much time. So let's go into those small groups.
Great, you should be able to pick your breakout rooms now. If not, let me know and I can help assign you and push you in that direction. Welcome back.
Hello.
Well, hello.
Sorry to have left you all alone here, Yolanda. I hope it wasn't.
That's fine.
Whoops.
Welcome back.
Did you all run out of time in your group?
We were having good discussion, but I was just saying that child care centers are a type of business that could be kind of included in the outreach that we were all talking about.
Great. Awesome.
Great.
So
Go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, okay. I was just going to say, we have a few minutes before we wrap up to share out what each of the groups talked about. I know we had a really great discussion in our group. I'd love to hear what you all talked about in yours. So Stephanie was going to report back, but did she just leave from our group? Maybe we can wait for her to
Maybe she
jump back.
Yeah.
So does someone from the indoor cooling group want to share what you all talked about?
I'm gonna pick on a few folks because Dana and Annegret, you kind of joined the group being like, I'm interested, but I don't, are you any closer to having an idea of like what direction you might want to move into?
I know we mentioned quite a few ideas, so I'm going to need some time to process it and get some coherent.
Yeah, same for me. I'm also, debating the, all three fields of communication, which I probably would have also joined if we didn't have those, or even the outdoor parts. So it's very in the beginning stages of thoughts.
And Allison got to share quite a bit about her idea, and we got to discuss it for a while. I don't know, Allison, if you just want to share like a brief snippet of, what you got out of the breakout group.
Yeah, so what I came in with was kind of like this art installation that would be video projections and live music, or perhaps it would be recorded music. And we kind of went kind of like the big picture idea is to have it be obviously a cool space physically, but also really cool aesthetically, where the music and the visuals would kind of create this environment that was like supplementing and putting you in a state of mind to be like really chilled out. And maybe it would be like more like aquatic or just like cool colors. And we talked about some kind of limitations, like if it was like an individual experience with time tickets, so that it's like COVID safe, but then is that kind of creating a barrier? And so then we kind of then flipped over to like, well, maybe it's outdoors and maybe at night, so it's dark and it's kind of like a counterpoint option to like a film out in a park, but instead of it, but it's like, it's a concert, but it's not exactly, it's an art installation. So we kind of just were like toying around with that, like what are the logistics, and like, Jeanette mentioned like a kind of like easy way to cool off is to have like frozen bandanas and wear them around your neck, around your wrists. Like, are there like little, things that we can do to help people cool down that don't involve exorbitant AC costs? And then we also talked about, I'm totally blanking. But it was a really good conversation. I had like one more piece. Come back to me.
That sounds really interesting. And I think folks in our group would be like interested in hearing more about that too. Stephanie, I know you got kicked off, but you're back. Do you or Erica want to report out what our group talked about?
Yes, sorry, my computer died.
No problem.
Yeah, so we had a really good conversation. We talked a lot about some stuff about building things, building shape structures with the youth group. We talked about having better awareness and advocacy around public water access and thermometers around the city to visibly tell people how hot it is, but also to track back to some sort of data collection system, whether it be an app or something, so people are maybe aware of where the hottest parts of Somerville are, and have those reminders, particularly on really hot days, to take extra caution. I'm just looking, wow, this is really tiny text. What else did we talk? We talked about just thinking through some different engineering solutions. Callie brought up a lot of really cool designs or techniques to implement, such as painting sidewalks or dark asphalt a lighter color to keep it from getting absorbing so much heat, but also just doing it like in a particular area, like a little zone, maybe at a bus stop that doesn't have shade or things like that, to just cool that area. What were some other things? Oh, public fridges, having water maybe available, or yeah, a cold drink in there. Or some other, anyone else have any other ones?
I'll throw in one thing that I think was super cool was that everyone's ideas really also fit together really nicely. So we started off just going through like what the ideas were and hearing about like intergenerational education and education kits, participatory mapping, thinking about the materials that are used in public spaces and how do we have materials that absorb less heat, and how can we like use it in a broader environmental frame, like can we use rainwater catchment as misting stations, which was like and yeah, combining plants and nature and shade structures, being able to see what temperatures are, helping the awareness of water, and then like seeing how those all really came together in like, you know, is there a way to do a collective and participatory like mapping of our cool locations, cool routes, cooling amenities of various types. And so seeing all of these as like kind of a nice parts of a larger cooling system, and then being able to really promote that and using like artistic interpretations to make it all really cool. So I thought that was such an awesome way to close out our conversation.
Definitely.
Awesome.
And one thing that came up in our group that I want to offer to folks in the other group is people wanted to connect with each other and try to attend the same coffee hour. So I proposed putting together like a Google Doc that people can edit and add their ideas and contact information so that you can coordinate and find each other. So I thought that was a great idea that I hadn't considered. So we'll send that out, try to put something together and send that out to folks who attended this and registered.
A couple of next steps. I was going to share my screen, but given that we're 1 minute away from being out of time, I'll just share them verbally. So just want to remind everybody that the application is due May 26th. It's a pretty simple application, and you know, we're like super available to kind of help you think further through your project, help you fill out the application. We'll have 3 idea cafes, and we'll send out the Zoom links for those after the meeting on Friday, May 7th, Wednesday, May 12th, and Tuesday, May 18th at kind of different times so that they're more accessible. And really want to thank everybody for being here. Just want to emphasize that this is not like the only thing that the city of Somerville is doing related to addressing, you know, the impacts of climate change and heat specifically. There's a larger regional planning project that the city of Somerville is part of, and this is really kind of that first opportunity to like start piloting some solutions, learning from the community what kind of solutions you all want to see implemented. And I'll leave it at that. Hannah, is there anything else you want to add before I say goodbye?
Nothing major. I put the links in the chat to the different cafe hours and the project website. We will send those out via email too with that Google Doc. Yes, snow cone machines. So thank you so much. These ideas are really great. I'm excited. I'm leaving this really energized and excited to continue collaborating. So please don't be a stranger. I said to my small group, like, if you have any questions, concerns, want to connect with other folks, don't know how to get started, please email me. Like, we are here to help you be successful in developing these projects. So please reach out. My email is, I'll put it in the chat, but I think everyone should have it anyway. And I think we'll leave it there, but thank you so much for attending and being part of this, and looking forward to seeing your applications and talking further. And thanks to all the advisor group members for spending your evening with us too. Take care.
Thank
Hey,
you.
y'all.
Bye.